Farbrengen from the Rebbe. Tachanun Yud, so it's early years, 1950, on the Rebbe's yahrzeit, which is coming up, Chof Menachem of 20th of Av. We're not going to do the whole Sicha. We'll try to learn the parts that are connected to what we want to learn, which is the kashrus. Let's bring it up. Make sure I got the right Sicha here. Yeah. Okay, for those who were checking before, I had to change the link because I didn't have the correct link before. Okay. Again, this is Sicha Chof Menachem of Tafshin Yud, and the start tells us that this is a Sicha that's been edited by the Rebbe and printed in the Kutei Sichas in the editions of volume 16. So the Rebbe says like this: Yadu, it's known, B'Drushin Lag B'Omer, with regard to the chassidic discourses on Lag B'Omer, should be Yom yahrzeit, when it comes to the day of yahrzeit, again, this is the Rebbe's father's yahrzeit, is B'chol Shana Nasis Aliyas Hanasham, every year the soul has an elevation. Ascholas Aliyah Hi B'Yom Shabbos Shlefnei yahrzeit. This the beginning of the elevation starts the Shabbos prior to the yahrzeit. Sheboy Noegin La'alis L'Torah, that's the custom that the children or chassidim get an aliyah to the Torah. U'be'im efshar l'maftir, and those who are able to get maftir, which is our custom. Aval ikar ha'aliyah hu hi b'yom ha'yahrzeit atzmai. But the main elevation is on the yahrzeit itself. The afshar kvar ovru kamar shana mistalkus, although the person in question could have passed away many years before, and so many years since that person's passing. It comes to the yahrzeit, every year, no matter how long ago the person passed away. Here we're talking about the Rebbe's father passed away a few years before this year of Tafshin Yud. Each year gets an additional elevation, means elevation even higher than it was from the year before. Therefore, of course, the custom is to have different customs with regard to the day of the yahrzeit. A child davens before the Amud on behalf of their parents. Dvar Torah, to say an idea of Torah. And best would be that if the person to speak on behalf of the person who passed away, which should be a descendant, meaning like a child or a grandchild. Also, best is if you could say over a teaching of the person who passed themselves. The Rebbe is, again, this is Tafshin Yud before the Rebbe officially accepted leadership. It's more kind of a farbrengen. I've been asked, doesn't say the details, but the Rebbe has been asked to make a siyum on the Tractate of Kiddushin, based on not on a Kabbalistic ideas or Hasidic ideas, but based on a nigla idea, a nigla of Hadran. Over the years, that I've made many Hadranim. This is going to be a Hadran of Menachem Kiddushin. We're not going to learn all of it because some of it is more of a subject to be learned on their own. But the chisi is al yahrzeit. So if the Rebbe says I'm going to make a Hadran, but he pushed it off to the yahrzeit. Now the Rebbe teaches us two things about the laws of Kiddushin. Sorry, about the Tractate of Kiddushin. At the end of the Sicha, the Rebbe is going to make a siyum to connect the end and the beginning of the Masechta. And the beginning, the Rebbe is going to just talk about a Mishnah, which this Mishnah is going to lead to the topic of the farbrengen. The Rebbe says those who are here today by the talk are Torah Yidden, people of Torah. Bachur Yeshiva, or students of the yeshiva, that are now involved in studying of Torah because of being in the yeshiva. And they're not going to be offended or upset if the Rebbe is going to farbrengen and it's going to make a hadran. Basically, the Rebbe is letting them know this is not going to be a short farbrengen. The Rebbe says it shouldn't just be a farbrengen just like that. It should be a farbrengen of simcha. Therefore, people should be in a good mood to listen. So what's the best thing is everyone should say l'chaim, so everyone can kind of get into the right mood. Okay, this is the opening to the farbrengen. Now the Rebbe says as follows: Kiddushin, at the end of the Tractate Kiddushin, there's a brisa. So there's a Mishnah and a brisa. We know that in general the Mishnah is short pen, and the brisa elaborates. So if you can find something in a detail in a Mishnah, sorry, in a short pen in the Mishnah, you'll be more broad in a similar brisa to the Mishnah. Meaning, as the Rebbe explains, because as you read this Adoris, the generations kind of, when Rebbe wrote it, he wrote it for one level of understanding. As things got on, it was still not so understood. So therefore, the brisa elaborates, and then that, of course, comes the Gemara many years later that elaborates in a much larger extent. So the Rebbe, and then afterwards, the responses, etc. There's also an idea that's brought down in the Mishnah. So in the beginning, the Rebbe is going to give now a Torah talk. The first Sicha is going to be to analyze the Mishnah and the Brisa. We'll learn the beginning of this talk, and then we're going to skip to what the Rebbe wants to say with regard to his kashrus. There's different ways that approaches and styles of study when it comes to the Talmud. There's logic with explanation, which the Rebbe calls the Litvek kind of Lithuanian kind of study. Then there's the pilpul, questions back and forth, which is the Rebbe says is more Polish style. So there's the Polish style, if you remember something, that Litvische or Lithuanian yeshivas came after the Polish yeshivas. Their initial yeshivas in Europe, in Eastern Europe, were in the Poland. The main cities of Yiddishkeit were Poland. Russia and Lithuania came later. So when you have the yeshivas of all the Achronim, of the Mariel, the Marsha, and all, that's all in Poland. And eventually, then they went to Vilna. They went to the Litvische Lithuanians. But Poland is Poland. People think of Poland as it was a place of chassidim, where they were just chassidish rebbeim there, but there was no yeshivas. The initial yeshivas come from Poland. So the Rebbe says the Taz, the Shach, these are all people that lived in Poland. So limud b'derech shel chidud upilpul is the Polish kind of learning. Avadik b'lashon v'signun eini mekubal. But hadiuk b'lashon v'signun, but the way that to be exact in the wording is not so important. It's more the theory. So the question of theory, which is the pilpul or the explanations, not so much to be medayik in the wording. But Talmud over Mistam, the Rebbe says the reason probably is misad miyat azman. Maybe he didn't have the time. There's a difference between the written Torah and the oral Torah. When it comes to the written Torah, the main thing is the letter, is the exact wording. That's why we find the Sefer Torah. It could be possible just from a letter miswritten. Not just that from one letter of the Torah. There's whole tractates in the Talmud. When it comes to the oral law, it's not so much that we're particular about the wording, but more of the idea, like it says in the Kutei Torah. And the Rebbe says, the Rebbe says, never mind. But nevertheless, we also have to apply that in the Torah Sheba'al Peh, also the wording is b'diuk, meaning the Rebbe is going to analyze the Mishnah and the Brisa. So before the Rebbe is analyzing the Mishnah and the Brisa, and the wording in it, he's letting you know that there's that a person shouldn't just think that there's kind of Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral laws, kind of just ideas and theories as opposed to particular and exact wording. But there's the exact wording in Torah Sheba'al Peh, and of course that applied all the way down through the Rishonim and Achronim, like the Alter Rebbe's Lashon, like the Rebbe called the Alter Rebbe's Lashon in the Shulchan Aruch, Lashon Hazov, the golden exact writing of the Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch. And if you actually analyze properly, exactly, the wording, that's why when we learn a Taisvis and we learn a Rashi, it's not just, okay, the Rashi said this, exact wording and exact terminology and how they lay out as an idea, especially Rashi. I mean, Rashi, look at Rashi, the genius of Rashi's ability to put big ideas in small words is very particular. And the Rebbe says if you analyze it properly, you'll see there's many laws learned from the particulars of how one analyzes the oisius, even the letters and the words of Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah. Echad migdolei chasidim. The Rebbe says one of the great chassidim and students of the Alter Rebbe, Admon Zaken, is Rebbe Nechemia Miduvrovna. That he would look into even the Taz, the Torah Zav, which is a commentary in the Shulchan Aruch, or the Magen Avram, which is a contemporary, which is a commentary in the Shulchan Aruch. But loimed mizayin halacha, an exact wording of their writings of their laws or their comments on the Shulchan Aruch, he would learn halachas. So surely the Rebbe is saying, okay, this is later years the Rebbe wouldn't go through this whole. The Rebbe was very medayik in every word and every lashon of the Gemara and of Rishonim Achronim. But here the Rebbe is starting off just to bring the people to the Rebbe's way of thinking, which the Rebbe taught us throughout the years more and more about the diuk, the exact lashon language that's used in even Rishonim Achronim. And here the Rebbe says that surely when it comes to Shas, when it comes to the Talmud, we can't just read casually. You have to understand that the choosing of the language is very particular. Okay, let's just learn a little bit of this, just to know what we're talking about, because it's going to apply to what we're learning later. I don't want to go through the whole siyum of Kiddushin. This is how the Tractate Kiddushin finishes. Tani Reb Naharai Omer. Reb Naharai. Okay, the Rebbe's later going to bring the word to analyze even the name of the person of who's being quoted. Naharai is from the word Nahor, which is to give light. That he says like this: I'm ready to forgo all the different vocations of the world, jobs, different stuff. I'm going to teach my son only to learn Torah, as opposed to teaching them other skills or things that they could use as a vocation for life. So he's talking about a person we learned before in traditions, talking about the laws a person has and teaching to getting the children ready to go out to the world. He says, no, I'm ready to forgo any any kind of education of worldly things for business, and I'm only going to teach my child Torah. So says Rabbi Neharoi. Shekol He gives a reason. Because every other vocation of the world, it's only good enough as long as you're able to use it as a method of income. So once you get old, so either you're not able to because you don't have the strength, or you're not up to date, or whatever it is. As you get older, so to say, retirement, what do you have? You have either your savings, but that's it. The study itself is useless to you because you can't use it for anything. And therefore you're going to be starving. Meaning, why are you going to be starving? Both intellectually, but even physically, because it's not you can only use it as long as you could use it as an income. Once it's no longer a source of income, so how are you going to live? So that's why people have savings. But in theory, if you're working paycheck to paycheck, as soon as the paycheck stops, what are you going to do? Torah is not so. I made this like Adam because it's with the person basically. I'll just say when they're younger, when the sense they are achris v'tikva, and he gives a person hope. Basic nasi as they get older. Basically, I'll just say, as it says, "Kavi Hashem yachlifu koyach ya'alu ever kinisharim." Basic nasi it says, "Oid yinuvim b'seva d'shein branim miyu." So he quotes two verses to show how the Torah is with the person both in one's youth and both in one's age. Again, it's not just talking about the paycheck. That's the literal translation. It also means what are you going to do like afterwards? So if you studied something, it gives you that you put all your youth in studying something for a job, for a vocation, for something that's going to be your parnasa. So when it's no longer your parnasa, it doesn't mean that you're starving only physically, but also starving intellectually. What are you going to do now? You can't. You have nothing to fall back on. You never study Torah. So when you study Torah, Torah has nothing to do. Torah you learn all the time. It says, So this is what the Brisa says. The Mishnah is more elaborate, and the Rebbe doesn't talk about in this whole talk. Again, for those to study on their own, is going to be that again, like I said, the Mishnah is usually short pen, and the Brisa is more elaborate. So in this case, we find the reverse. The Brisa seems straightforward. Rabbi Naroi says that I'm not going to teach my child any other tools of income or of vocation for jobs education. I'm going to teach my child Torah. Why? Because Torah is going to be with a person whether they're young or whether they're old, and a job that's as long as the person's working. Once they stop working, it's no longer applicable either to their intellectual knowledge or even possibly to their finances. The Mishnah says like this: Rabbi Neharoi says, "Maniachni kol nishabayla." Similar. Okay, so I'm going to forgo all other vocations of the world. I'm going to teach my child Torah. Why? So here he goes more to explain it better. Now the Mishnah explains it more in detail. That in the Torah you eat from its reward a little bit in this world, present world. But the main, the Karen, it's the initial investment stays with the person even in the world to come. This is why would you spend time on something that's only going to be temporary, which is only for this world? You have nothing to take with it from the world to come, right? Like it is the same when someone's buried. No one's ever broken the system to take a penny over to the other side, right? No matter how you could leave for your children and you could leave for tzedakah, those are all nice things. But you personally, to take it to the other world, you don't. So when you're going to come to the other world, you don't have a drop of Torah where you're going to come across with. So you have Torah Ma'asim Tovim. So that's what he says. There's the schar you have in this world and the karen you have in the world to come. B'shar kolumnus, by other vocations, any case. If you're going to become sick, either they sick and you get elderly, either they certain or other pains that you no longer could use this as a means of utilizing your time with it. You can no longer work. How do you make merav? Again, you'll die of starvation, both whether in the physical sense or the spiritual sense. Ava Torah ain't Torah is not so. The Torah protects you. Minarusai in your youth, and gives you hope in the future as you age. Again, he quotes the pasuk of it's with you when you're older. We find this also by our forefather Avram. It says Avram Zaken. As Avram got older, Hashem Berech as Avram Makol. God blessed him with everything. Actually, we find that what was the Hashem Berech as Avram Makol? That Avram did all the Torah before it was given. Like it says, Hashem Avram Bakoili. Like he listened to me. There's many explanations to that passage. That even in the Akiv, you heard the Dvar Hashem, but the literal translation is that Avram Avinu listened to the Torah. V'yishmar mishmarti mitzvayis yechiah v'terasei. So we have a clear passage that says that Avram kept Torah. Okay, so we're going to stop. We're going to stop here in this Sicha. The Rebbe continues to analyze all the questions that he asks about the difference between the Brisa and the Mishnah. Primarily, the question is if the Mishnah is a short pen and the Brisa is the elaborate one. In this, we find the reverse. The Brisa is straightforward. I only teach my child Umanis, but I don't teach my child. I only teach my child Torah. I don't teach them other vocations. And then the Mishnah goes into detail to explain the schar is for this world and level above. Okay. Let's just actually finish the talk to get to the idea. We'll skip out the questions. So that explains this is the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Generally, we say that the Mishnah talks more in general, and the Brisas are more in the particulars. So too we'll find it really in our Mishnah. A Mishnah Maversa derech limud atar shayach lahaklal. The Rebbe explains, it goes into the question over there about the ability for a person to learn Torah as a way of income. So we know that you're not allowed to learn Torah, so you're not allowed to study Torah with the intent that the Torah is going to be your income. But if you study Torah and then it comes time for a job and that's the only way of income, then you're allowed to, Alter Rebbe says. Because that's what he says. The Mishnah is talking about the limud haTorah sheshayach laklal to the general person. And you find a way that because you only learn Torah in your youth, that's the only vocation you have. And you're not talented in anything else. You don't have a college education or anything else. How can you get a job as a doctor, as a lawyer, as an accountant? You don't know it. So therefore, the only thing you can do is you can learn Torah. But you didn't start learning Torah for that reason, especially when you're a child and your father taught you. You didn't know that. And the Rebbe says the Brisa is talking about so therefore the Mishnah, which is the short pen, it's not just the short pen; it's also talking to the general public. The Brisa goes and makes an exception to the rule because certain people that they learned like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. It's not just that they're learning Torah and the Torah is going to end up being their source of income. They learn Torah and Malach Chanasa Decher. It's out. You don't have to worry about your income. God will take care of it. Others will take care of it. However, the God decides that others do it. Well, like its work gets done by others. That's why there's a difference. The Brisa says because later any vocations won't stand by the person. Is not but the other types Yes, the Rebbe says achiluk bein the shar, being called the shar. What's the difference if I say any other vocation won't help me when I get older, or the other vocations won't help me? The Rebbe says the difference is Shema Shema is called Nishma. What does it mean? All the other vocations of the world, which is what the Brisa says. He Shatayra Ein B'chlal means there's not like there's different vocations, and Torah is one of them. Torah is another; it's a league of its own. That's Rashbi. Rashbi is a person who the Torah is a league of their own. Machalek and Torah is two separate ideas, and if a person lives the world of Torah, it's not like that's one of the vocations, but the other ones won't last. And this is the best one. It's you're living on another level. You're living on a level that your job gets done by others. Shekol umnis ein emet. It's mashenkin Torah. Mashmois shar kol umnis. But when you say others, means you're included in it. This is Torah is one of the others. Husha Torah higam kim chol umnis. It's a type of vocation, but it's the best of the types. Elish machalik ben umnis Torah l'shar umnis. The Hezbollah said the difference is. The mission is talking about the general, every person. I know she is sparnis bitur moira hayra. You're going to end up getting a job that's going to pay you an income as a teacher or a rav or a rosh hashiva. Well, a Torah, at the end of the day, Torah becomes a vocation, a source of income. Sure, you're getting paid because of your knowledge of Torah. When it comes to the Brisa, we're talking about the level of Rashbi. It's not talking about that it's a source of vocation. Your whole income comes from an outside space called achirim, others, or however God decides that to be. The Azin Torah is not a type of umnus. And that's why it says, by the Mishnah, it says, Shekol umnus. Because there's umnus and Torah, two separate things. Where the Mishnah is talking about, where at the end you do get an income through your studying, even though you're not supposed to study for the income, but if at the end of the day that's your only source that's the only thing you have to offer in work is to be a teacher, Rosh Hashiva, or Rav. Obviously, it's okay to take a salary from that. But that's shar, and therefore it's better to be a Rav than to be a Rosh Hashiva than to be a business person. Because at the end of the day, a business person, it's just business. And Torah, at the end of the day, your source of income is also connected to something that's Torah. So if he's a yom tek oid shinikot, and the Rebbe says another difference is it doesn't say the word in the Brisa. It says all the types of vocations in the world, meaning a space of limitation. The mission doesn't say it just says kol umunes. Why? Because when the Brisa is talking about the level of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, it's taking the person out of the limitations of the world because it's not natural for a person not to have a source of income. So therefore, the person's out of the limitations of the world, and therefore they're running on, and therefore the Gemara does say that a lot of people try to do it like Rosh Hashanah, and they weren't able to. It's totally the opposite of how things are in the world. But when it comes to the Mishnah, it's not a miraculous way that you're getting income. You're getting income because you have a job as a Rav or a Rosh Hashiva, but you using it from Torah. Why? Not because you study Torah, because that's the only thing you could do. You study Torah to study Torah, but then the days this person has to live. Like the Alter Rebbe says, I have a chiyuv to teach my child. You have a chiyuv to find space. So I'm asking you to teach my child for me. Now, there's a behemshach mishnah. Sharko umnes hine kisha adam bali dei chayle zikna yisurin har humes birov. But Brisa hishmet zayis v'lay hive el zikna. And therefore, he says also the Mishnah that says the Brisa only says when a person comes to age. The Mishnah goes into other things that could affect illness, yisurim, things that you're not able to work anymore. It says there is no such thing as death. Death comes from sin, and yisurim comes from also sin. Only certain exceptions to the rule that have yisurim or death that's not connected to sin. And even that's what it says, even there's certain people that die because of the bite of the snake, which is connected to sin. Holding the level where they're mamish doing what Hashem wants, with all your might, like Rashbi. The first part of Krishma, which does say not Pashas Shnia, which doesn't have B'chol Meidech with all your might. Because you're holding on a level, you don't have to be worried about maybe you're going to go astray. Therefore, there's no such thing as sickness and pain. You're going to die from old age. A person dies naturally. Whenever their time comes, old age doesn't have to be 120. Zikra means you're not dying from anything that's connected to sin. As you as an individual, or your serum, because God has to cleanse you through your serum, through challenges and pain. The person, whenever your time is over, 70 years, 80 years, Rizal, 36 years, people died at different ages, but that was the end, that was when they finished, not because they were punished. So therefore, the Mishnah is talking about the type of person that the only thing that could come to them was age, not sickness or pain. Pisa moving gamsha Mishnah Eimer Nairis v'Yaldus Shu Kati Minairis. It says in the days of Nairus, not Yaldus, which is even lower than Nairus. V'Lil Mesechtes Chanech Nar V'Ezenar Pirshashi Bryce Eimer Yaldus. Kivan Haged the Derech Eresh Spanis Mitari Bilamdonis through teaching, which, like the Mishnah says, you have to be a little older, so you start learning so you can be able to teach. When we're talking about, it's not about you, it's about, so then even at the youngest of ages, you start, because it's not about any kind of getting ready, I'm starting to learn so I could give a shiur later. To do God's will, even as the youngest child. Okay. Let's just bring this into, if you want to finish to get to the side. The idea is to get to the kashrus part, because the Rebbe is going to go into how this is a lesson in this kashrus. But let's get there. I just didn't want to skip too much, because then it'll be hard to understand when we do the next class. So we'll just get now to the end of this talk. And we'll start with the main part, which we're trying to learn, which is the Rebbe explained the Mamish idea of the kashrus, etc. The Pisa moving at Tam Shrak Mishnah Eimer ala Torah Adam Eichel Mischor Beil Mazav Levi Brisa. Therefore, the Mishnah is talking about the schar, which is in the world to come, and then there's the Karen Kiems Mabal. There's a chiluk shbein shnei ifani had to parnasa and all. This is we said there's two ways of having parnasa. Sha'ifan and hagik Rashbi and Machtin Asay Dechem. Rashbi learned Torah, and he didn't have to worry about income. Income came from others. Someone else is doing the work. It's miraculous. It's not regular. It's not because you learn Torah, therefore you're going to get reward in this world. When you totally committed to God, it's not about what could I do, like as a give and take. I'm going to give God, and He's going to give me back. I'm doing God 100. I'm serving God 100%. And then, of course, God obviously he takes care of those who serve 100%. It's not because I'm seeing what could I do in order to get return from God. I'm going to do everything, and God will take care of it. That's Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. This that others are going to do the work for you, like it's brought down in the days of Mashiach. So you have no worries. Therefore, you're always studying Torah. In Adgashu b'zeh Torah, Elishai Deize Mochach Shum Makavi Avaya, V'mei Achlifu Koyach Mashenkim B'Efen Hasheni L'Elam K'ben Hagi Noig B'Minog B'Tuachu B'Parnasasei M'nei Ma'aseh Torah Tafka Sha'oichel Mischar Ben Mazeh. So therefore, when you're looking at it as a kind of a vocation, he's saying, the Rebbe is saying, then you're looking at it that Torah gives reward in this world. So it's a kind of reward, a schar. It's schar that you get the reward for your studying of Torah, but it's kind of a give and take. Right. That's why also the Mishnah doesn't mention, the Brisa doesn't mention about Avram Avinu. Why? Avram was at the end of the day a business person. He was a shepherd. And you should pardon his he didn't have to say that he miraculously made an income. He was a shepherd. Shepherd makes money. Even though his success as a shepherd was not natural, was beyond the laws of nature. It wasn't like he didn't do anything and the work was done by others. Like Rashbi, Rabbi Kiva, Kedayma, like others. He did work. He had supernatural success in his efforts. Even though he had servants who surely did a lot of his work. He possibly learned the whole time, but he had to set up a system where he could only sit and learn because he had servants that he acquired. Seemingly that's also works being done by someone else, by my servants. Seemingly it's also talking about that someone else is going to do work. The pasuk talks about days of Mashiach is going to be done by your servants. Is Harry Avram Hoy is Zegamai David Asibatzme. Shachain Bachru obviously is right side Dafka. Means it wasn't that just he just had servants. He chose a vocation. I want to be a shepherd because being a shepherd allows for me to be able to hire servants and they should do most of the work. They the fathers didn't want to be too engaged, like Yosef tzaddik, which had a job as a viceroy. We learned this many times. Mitvor b'da'ach. This is explained in the Chassidus. They had some sort of participation. So therefore, generally, it was in the laws of nature. But a lot of people have eventually workers working for them, and they could do less work. But you're setting up such a system. You're choosing a kind of job. You're hiring servants. Rabbi Shimon learn Torah. He did b'chol meidecha, and then it's not important to how the money's going to come find specifically a shepherd or not a shepherd. He's doing what he's doing, and God's going to take care of it. Therefore, when we're talking about people like Rashbi, we're not talking about Avram Avinu. Because Avram Avinu, you can't say is exactly a miraculous. You can say that he was in his efforts, it was miraculous, but not that the whole idea was miraculous. But the mission is talking about a person who uses the Torah as a source of vocation, but it's the best of those sources. Because he did the Torah. Therefore, even as he got older, he had Bakol, which was Hatzlach, but nevertheless it was some sort of level in Teva. Okay, we're going to stop here. The next time we learn this, we're going to try to get through this in for Chafov, but the next parts of the Sicha go into to explain this Alpi Chassidus, and then that's the second Sicha, I believe. And then the third, which we're going to learn, and the third in properly. I mean, now we just went through kind of today's class, but just quickly to give some sort of basis for the next class. So if we went fast and not everything was understood, and we skipped out, but it's because we want to learn the Hiskashrus part. So we're going to do the next Sicha, and then of course the third Sicha, which is going to go into deep Hiskashrus ideas going forward from the third Sicha from Sifrit Gimel. Next time we'll start next class that we do this subject. Maybe we'll do a mimer next tomorrow, or we'll just go with the Sicha throughout the week, depending. I'll see. Is from Sif Yud. We're going to start with the Pnimis Inyanim. We'll do it in depth and explain better. All right. Thank you for joining, everyone.